what's the big dream and the vision this year?
Blue-green Water Technologies' mission is to make water safe. We started by tackling a water pandemic, a global water pandemic known as harmful algal blooms that covers 60 million lakes and contaminates 30 million square kilometers of ocean. It's a major contributor to the fact that 2 billion people, with the B, 2 billion people around the world are suffering from access to water that is not safe to them. And so that's the problem that we're trying to tackle here. And we've been able to develop, regulate, and commercialize the first line of products for lakes and oceans that is able to rehabilitate entire aquatic ecosystems within days to weeks, recreate biodiversity in those ecosystems, remove a lot of carbon, reduce the emissions of methane and nitrous oxide that are the result of algal blooms, improve water quality, improve water availability, and all the benefits, the socio-economic and humanitarian benefits that come from safe water.
Is this a known issue? Because if it's a known issue, there should be a lot of work being done on this problem, right?
It's definitely a known issue. There is no solution at large scale. And for the longest time, it was treated as an act of God. So in places where they are mindful to the problem, let's say the United States, you would see advisories like mushrooms after rain. You see advisories everywhere all the time saying don't get near the water, don't touch the water, don't get your dog near the water because it will die. With our solutions, we are now able to support these communities by remediating the underlying problem and keeping the lake in a good shape. This is the way it should go. Having said that, again, because water is not a thing that people are used to deal with, because a solution never existed, there is hardly a lake around the world where you would find a budget line that says to treat. So even if we've been able to educate the market, to the problem, to the fact that finally there is a solution, you still need to find the budget that will be allocated around those lakes. And normally you would find them only in rich enough communities, and that's not what we're really trying to achieve, because remember, the 2 billion people that are lacking access to safe water, these are not those communities. So yeah, those communities are suffering because somebody canceled the triathlon, but they don't drink this water. Other people do, and they don't have the money, or the system is too corrupt or broken to do something about it, even if they're super happy about the idea of doing something about it. And that's where it's getting very challenging.
Yeah, and this unprecedented growth in the number of cells, which are, these bacteria of salts, right? Is it similar? Can I just make a mental model?
It's literally a bacterial infection of water, right? So when you have a bacterial infection and you don't treat it, what's going to happen? It's going to spread. And if you don't use antibiotics on time, ultimately it can kill you. And that's what happens to lakes. Now, because we developed remote sensing capabilities, we're able to draw images, historical images from different aquatic ecosystems. So we can really learn today how this situation is developing from year to year over many years. And what you see everywhere, all over the place, you're seeing always the same thing. You're seeing that you can start identifying problems. It's not big, nobody cares, it's only a week here, a week there, and maybe that beach is closed and that beach is closed, but it's just for a couple of days or maybe a week, but it gets worse and worse and worse to the point that the whole system is tipping off. There is no more resistance because biodiversity completely broke, and at that point you're seeing the entire lake getting contaminated, and it starts with weeks, moving to months, and ultimately in the bad cases, you'll see year-round contamination. And that's when you basically get dead aquatic zones, and that's what we're trying to change.
I really like this approach. What you just said was very interesting, that there are these communities where the real estate value drops. So could these be, or are these the early adopters for you? Because these guys would say, just got kind of cured. I don't know if there's a better word for it, but got cured, right? Of a disease, practically. And now, the water looks clean, children can play there, and we can have a nice place to, hang around of sorts. I mean, the entire value of this complex, whatever you're building around those areas, I don't know what exists, right? But I'm sure there are these hotspots if we were to do kind of a heat mapping. So are you seeing traction, at least in those areas at this point?
I can give you a quick example. The state of Florida is suffering dramatically from harmful algal blooms, both freshwater in the state as well as from red tide that are contaminating their waters from both sides of the peninsula. So they get red tides from the Atlantic, they get red tides from the Gulf side. And a recent study that was published a couple of months ago indicated that a single red tide event in 2018 caused the state economic damages of $2.7 billion. Florida became over the years our biggest market. We are operating both in freshwater and on the marine side. And yes, and the answer is yes, we are able today to intervene and prevent blooms from happening altogether. Our first project in Florida was in Lake Minneola in 2020. The reason we went there, it wasn't just an anecdotal example, the reason we went there is that the year before, algal blooms prevented the annual triathlon from taking place because the water was too toxic. And so they had to cancel, and you can imagine, people are preparing for this for so long, and last minute they had to cancel. And so we were brought in, we treated the lake was rehabilitated, and those blooms usually take place around March. And the reason we were sent to Lake Minneola was that Lake Minneola was in a chain of lakes, the last in a chain of lakes, that was always the worst, of course, because if all the lakes are contaminated, the last one in the chain is the most contaminated one. It keeps, all the contamination is pushing into that lake. And interestingly enough, we were able to rehabilitate the lake, recreate biodiversity. So when March 2021 came, with its blooms, the entire chain of lakes was blooming other than Lake Minneola, even though we could see algal blooms and bacteria being pushed into Lake Minneola. And the reason is that biodiversity is a natural immune system of any biological ecosystem. So if you have different species fighting over the same resources, they will not allow the newly introduced contamination from taking over now that biodiversity is present in those water. And interestingly enough, we were having people upstream in Lake Minneola pissed off. Why are they treating downstream where they should actually be treating upstream? Which kind of makes sense. But that means budgeting, another lake.
What does a solution look like for the world? Like, give us the rosy picture. What could it look like if we solve this? And what's the outcome that we could all have?
We can improve water safety and water quality that is associated with harmful algal bloom, which is kind of an underlying problem to many other issues in water, in a fairly simple way. We were able to design a scalable solution that can be deployed almost anywhere fairly quickly. No capex is involved. That piggybacks on natural processes. We're basically pressing a self-destruct mechanism that is encoded in the genetic makeup of these species that is causing them to want to die. They undergo a collective suicide. So by using surgical means, we are able to control the entire toxic population in the water. And when that happens, beneficial non-toxic species have the opportunity to take over the ecological niche and recreate biodiversity.
This is the last section. What I really want to understand is what's the deal for the planet that you are offering now? Where are you going and what can we do?
In order to support our capacity build-up toward major events that are coming up, which is the carbon markets maturing and the water markets maturing, we are now going for a round of financing. This is on the heels of a financing round we closed mid last year. Post-money valuation was $74 million. And what I'd like to offer only to IPO members is to participate ahead of the round in a round that will be an extension of the last round under the same post-money valuation. Of course, there will need to be a minimum participation of $3 million. Individuals can join in with $250,000 as a minimum. Institutional investors a minimum of $1 million. If we bring together $3 million, I can open the last round, create an extension. This will be a unique opportunity ahead of the upcoming round, which will be somewhere in the range of a $100 million valuation.
Wow, this sounds like a good opportunity, and I think a very good offer for many people who are trying to basically do the right thing and also make money at the same time. So this is a real deal for the planet, and Eyal, thanks for offering that to YPO.